What's up everybody, my name is Seth and today I'm going to be comparing these two PRS guitars. This one here is the USA version of the Silver Sky, whereas this guy right here is the SE version of the Silver Sky. Before I get started with a comparison, I just want to quickly mention that I have actually already made individual reviews for both of these guitars, so if that's something you'd be interested in watching, I'll put a link to them in the description box down below. For those of you that might not know, the Silver Sky is actually the signature model for John Mayer, and the USA version was first released back in 2018. The SE version, however, which is made in Indonesia, was just released for the first time in 2022, and honestly, since the release, they've been pretty hard to find in stores, so hopefully this video is useful for those of you who are shopping around for a Silver Sky, wondering if you should go all out for the USA version or if you can actually save some money and get the SE version. What's really interesting about these two guitars is that despite looking very similar, at least on first glance, they're actually pretty different on paper, so I'm just going to start by quickly going through the specs of each of them. On the USA version, we've got an alder body, a maple neck that's finished in a nitrocellulose with a rosewood fingerboard. The fingerboard radius on this one is 7¼ inches. As far as hardware goes, this one is equipped with locking tuners, a bone nut, and a 6-point tremolo, and the electronics are the 635 JM USA pickups. On the SE version, we've got a poplar body, a maple neck that's finished in a vintage tinted satin, rosewood fingerboard with an 8½ inch radius. In the hardware, we've got vintage style tuners, but they're non-locking, a synthetic bone nut, and a 2-point tremolo system as opposed to the 6 that's on the USA version. The pickups are 635 JMS pickups, so you could essentially just think of them as an import version of the USA pickups. Another difference between these two guitars is that I feel like the finish on the SE version is just a little bit more plain or bland than the USA version, which features a metallic finish. It's not to say that the SE version is bad. I actually really do like the stone blue color and some of the other colors that they've come out with for it. It's just in comparison to the USA version, I feel like these colors lack a little bit of depth that you get with the more metallic finish. Another quick difference between these two guitars is that the USA version does not come with a backplate, whereas the SE version does. As far as build quality goes, the USA version is basically perfect. There's no blemishes or any type of factory defect to be found whatsoever, which is honestly what you would expect from a PRS USA guitar. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the SE version. This guitar actually did show up with a few factory blemishes, like there was some black spots underneath the clear coat of the guitar, as well as there being a small ding next to the neck pocket. Another thing is that the volume knob on this guitar just started cracking for really no reason, so I'm not sure what happened there, but to be fair, I have seen that be an issue with the USA version as well. It just thankfully hasn't happened to mine. But the nice thing is I reached out to Sweetwater where I bought the SE Silver Sky and I told them what happened, and they were nice enough to send me a new knob at no charge. So it's not really an issue anymore, but it is important to mention just because, like I said, this guitar didn't fall, nothing happened, so I'm not sure why the knob just split or cracked in the first place. Outside of the minor cosmetic issues that the SE has, I think both of these are incredibly well-built guitars, and all the hardware and electronics work exactly as you would expect them to. Like I mentioned in the review of the SE version, this fretwork is some of the best I've ever seen on an import guitar, period. And obviously the USA one has pretty good fretwork as well. And tuning stability on both is actually pretty similar. I never really had the SE going out of tune. I've heard rumors and horror stories about the SE nut not being the greatest in the world, but I haven't had any problems with this particular Silver Sky, so both seem to hold their tuning really well. As far as how these two guitars feel to play, the most obvious difference between them is going to be as a result of the satin finish neck of the SE versus the gloss finished nitrocellulose neck of the USA model. Now, I'm just going to say I've never really been a person who's minded a gloss finish neck all that much. I have a lot of guitars with gloss finish necks and I still find them pretty comfortable. But I've got to give the edge to the satin finish neck because it is noticeably more smooth and it is easier to kind of move up and down the neck without feeling like things are sticky. These guitars both feature a fairly round fingerboard radius, and honestly, despite me initially having some reservations about that, like I said in each of the individual reviews, I actually found myself kind of falling in love with the round fingerboard radius, especially due to how great the fretwork is. Because these frets are leveled perfectly, you can bend to your heart's content and not have to worry about notes fretting out, which I know is a common fear or problem with other guitars that have had rounder fingerboards in the past. Honestly, between these two, even though the SE is a little bit flatter, I can't really pick a favorite or give an edge to either in terms of playability as far as the fingerboard radius goes, just because it really doesn't feel all that different between the two. In terms of neck profile, I honestly found these two guitars to be basically identical. Even though the spec sheet of the SE Silver Sky shows it's slightly narrower at the nut, in the hands it honestly feels exactly the same. Really the only difference between these two that I can feel is just as a result of the neck finish. Before I share how I personally feel about the way these two guitars compare sound-wise, I'm going to play a few more sound clips for you so you can form your own opinion. What I'd like you to do is leave a comment in the comments section down below letting me know what you're hearing as far as similarities and differences between these two, and then once the clips are done, I'll share my own personal opinion. In my personal opinion, these two guitars sound incredibly similar, which is super impressive, especially when you remember that the SE Silver Sky is less than 1/3 the price of the USA Silver Sky, at least now at the time of filming. The only real difference I'm hearing is that it seems like the USA Silver Sky has a little bit more top end and might be slightly clearer sounding than the SE, but honestly, it's not a night and day difference, and I feel like both of these guitars would serve you incredibly well in even a professional context. Another thing worth mentioning is that the sonic differences between these two could actually be more so due to the fact that this is a 2019 USA Silver Sky, and I know in 2020 PRS did some slight changes to the pickups, so it's very possible that the SE is actually perfectly in sync with what PRS is doing on the current production Silver Skies, and it's just not necessarily one-to-one with the old version of the Silver Skies pickups. So in conclusion, I think both of these guitars are great, and currently they are my favorite S-style guitars in each of their respective price ranges. Even though I do prefer the USA Silver Sky and think it is a better guitar overall, I don't think it's 3 times better than the SE version, despite it being 3 times the price of the SE version. That's not meant to be a dig at the USA Silver Sky, it's actually more meant to be high praise for this SE guitar because it really is fantastic. If you handed me the SE and I was blindfolded, I would honestly think it's a guitar that's much more expensive given how good it sounds and how great it feels to play. I do really wish that the SE version came with locking tuners though. For the sake of transparency, I need to say that even though I do love the SE Silver Sky, I personally don't feel a need to own both the USA version and the SE version just because A, the S-style guitar isn't necessarily my first choice anyway, and B, just because there's not a world of difference between these two sonically. I do understand the case for owning both of these if you're someone who this is your preferred style of guitar and you're playing live, because then if you want to bring out a guitar that's much less expensive on the road with you, you can, and you're not really sacrificing much in the way of sound or playability. It's also great if you're someone who doesn't own either of these two guitars and you want to save some money and still get a really fantastic S-style guitar. Overall, I think both of these guitars are absolutely fantastic and you really can't go wrong with either. For me personally though, I'm definitely going to be holding on to the USA Silver Sky for a very long time. But that's just my personal opinion. If you have any experience with either the USA Silver Sky or the SE Silver Sky or both, let me know what you thought about them in that comment section down below. I always like talking to people in the comment section about guitars, and it's really interesting to hear everybody else's perspective. But that's going to pretty much do it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video and found it useful, please like it and subscribe if you haven't already done so. If you're interested in more directly supporting me in the channel, I've got links to do that in the description box down below. So check those out if you have a second. Again, thank you all so much just for watching. It really means a lot to me. Take care. Hope to see you again next time.